So I do know that there are actually some office supply stores that sell used office equipment as well.
Mhm.
So that's another option for her, if there's something specific that might not be available at surplus that she may go acquire through there.
Yeah. And Craigslist and eBay, our camera we used was an eBay purchase. And it saved us a good couple $100 to go through eBay. It was used, that's all right. So, you know, we do have a track record of success in that area.
Okay, so 10 o'clock we'll open public comment. Is there any public comment? Whatever, okay, we'll go to Bernadette. Certificate of survey review.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't have a certificate or survey per se, but we are getting ready to start a certificate of survey and working on a project for the trust board, Broadwater County Trust Board. And Steve McCullough asked that I supply you, this is a letter for right of entry onto property that we're going to be surveying. So this is just so you guys can have a copy. And there's one just if Corey wants it also. The dates will be filled in as we get it scheduled. And then we're open for, anything you guys would like to add or take away from it. But this just basically will give landowners knowledge that we're gonna be coming through doing some surveying and be on their property, and that they can't call the police that we're trespassing. So it'll be sent registered mail to landowners.
I read this letter, I think it's good, I have no suggested edits, but I do have a question, and it may not be a question for you, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Okay, go for it.
So this is a public road easement, a
Yes.
county road easement actually,
Correct.
and there's a temporary fence across it. My question is, I understand that years ago when that was done, probably nobody in the public objected, therefore it was done as kind of just a good neighbor type move. Since it is now being surveyed in a project with the trust board, should that come down entirely? I mean, certainly I think it's more than polite to advise that you'll be there surveying, but I question whether we can fence off a county road without a public process.
Right. As far as I'm aware, I know that when there was a fence put in years ago, there was a gate put there on that section line. And I know that the commission at that point in time, I believe, was aware of it and, made some statements that maybe someone came in and complained. I don't remember the whole story. It was a long time ago.
It's my understanding it's just a cable across the road at this point, so you can just take that down and
Right.
go do your work.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, but yes, that, especially with it being a county road, and if they put the pedestrian and bicycle path down it, it would have to remain open. It wouldn't be able to be fenced or gated off.
I think the idea was that they just didn't want people driving down, with their vehicles
Right.
on that road. And, you know what happened.
Oh, yeah.
They drive when it's raining, it seemed like,
Mhm.
every time raining, they got the ruts and all that stuff to deal with. So I think that, from my understanding, that was the purpose of it at that time,
Right.
to do that, so.
Yeah, and even though it was a county road, it suited their needs well, just to not have people meandering through there, but.
All right, well, I appreciate the history. My question is still there in my head, and I think it is a legal question, not necessarily a survey question, but I do appreciate the histories. Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they would not have, like I said, they would not have a right to fence it off.
No, right. And I think my understanding, they asked if they could do that before they did it. It's not something like they purposely went up and did it and said,
Yeah,
too bad, so sad.
right, so, yeah, it would be.
Yeah, no, I'm curious,
Mhm.
so, thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Is this Heron Road shown on any maps anywhere?
Yes, in the one in the hallway, it shows the older one. It goes right up the section line, it incorporates part of Cactus Lane,
Oh, okay.
goes
is part
straight
of
out
it.
from Cactus, doesn't it? Goes straight out from Cactus, doesn't it?
Straight
Just
north.
continue? Yeah,
Yeah, it actually starts about right near the Trailhead Church. It veers off of the Helena Road, is at an angle, and it goes straight up the section line and went right through the Foster subdivision. That portion of it did go through the process to be abandoned and closed off during that subdivision process. So from the north boundary, I believe, of the Foster subdivision, all the way north then, and it went to the river, the lower bridge, where the lower bridge was, or the ferry originally, and then the Winston Lower Bridge was put in. So it went and up the section line to, I think, section 2, 7 north, 1 east, and at that point, there's a gully that went to the river. And so at that point, it followed that gully down to the river, or that drainage.
huh,
And also met a road, the road went to the ferry and then the bridge, or went on to Winston, up and around Winston.
interesting.
Yeah, and it was a major thoroughfare to the other side of the river at that point. It was just
Sure.
So it was a market road. And the trust board did have us do a booklet of the history of that. And so that is available, we have a copy, they have a copy, if you ever wanted to see some of the maps that we did find with it located. And all the way to when the land surveyors came through in the 1800s. Of course, they didn't survey the whole road, but where cross-section lines. And there is history even far back as that.
Interesting. Oh,
It is fascinating. I mean, the network of roads before the lake is a lot.
yeah.
Right?
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
I would move to approve or support the trust board's endeavors regarding this letter of that. I don't know that it's required, I think this is more just a support letter or support motion, but I think it would, or maybe this, I think maybe we should all three be on the record as agreeing to the letter.
I think that's all we need
Okay.
for them to go forward at this point. And then after they send us a letter, I'd like to see what the response is from the gals and boys.
All right,
Okay?
yeah.
Okay, let's see, we will move ahead with our 1015 Mike Conkey Disaster Emergency Services, federal funding for fire mitigation, or deputy for DES.
All right, here on the first part, I'm kind of representing Ed Shendall, County Fire Chief,
Thank you.
and he's our board member on the Tri-County Fire Safe Working Group. And what they do, if you're not familiar with that, the yellow handout sheet is the Tri-County Fire Safe Working Group, kind of the blurb about their background. They've been around since the early '85. Ed is a member on that board of trustees representing Broadwater County. It's the three counties, Broadwater, Jefferson, and Lewis and Clark. And they do mostly education and then mitigation projects. And we've been a part of that for a long time. What they usually do is apply for several federal funds and stuff. And rather than Ed can't be here today, he's in Helen, asked me to kind of bring this up to your subject. I talked to Pat McCalvey yesterday on the phone quite some time to see what they want. what they did in Lewis and Clark County, they have an agreement with Tri-County Fire Safe to do mitigation projects. They bring all the federal funds or state funds, and even there's some private funds in through that organization rather than individually to different counties. But now they're gonna be giving some monies to individual counties through some federal, and they call it good neighbor stuff. And we can still contract with them to do it, so they can get like 20,000 from Broadwater, 20,000 from Jefferson, and 20,000 Lewis and Clark. Still let them do it. Now these mitigation projects, they go out and do home assessments. I'm not certified to do that. Ed is, and they also have people with Pat McCouch and others go out there, look around the ignition zone around a home and stuff, and make recommendations for citizens to prepare for a wildland fire on the urban interface. And then they have a proposal to do some thinning or whatever they need mitigation work. And usually it's a cost share between the landowner and Tri-County Fire Safe. And they're using different types of federal funds, some BLM, some Forest Service, some state of Montana funds, and some FEMA money. They kind of handle all that. And Ed and I decided we'd approach the commission to do the mitigation work and funding all through them. I'm a part-time position, I don't have time to learn those skills and stuff, and neither does Ed. He's kind of spread counts in. He's city fire chief, he's rural fire chief, he's actually paid administrator for the rural fire district, and he's also a county fire warden. That's a position between the county and DNRC. And then he also does activity bus driving, maintains the buses for the school district as an employee of the school district. So what we're suggesting is we enter into agreement similar to what Lewis and Clark County has done. Jefferson County is in the process of doing the same thing. So just for introductory purposes, here's copies of that agreement. And we need,
Thank you.
I don't have a Word document. These are actually what they have on file up there. So what we'd like to do is start the process with the commissioners, drafting a contract between Broadwater County and Tri-County Fire Safe Working Group, have them apply for funding on the behalf of the county, receive those funds, and administer those funds, administer the program. So it's a good program.
So those folks from Tri-County will actually come out and do the assessment?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They have
Make
actually,
recommendations?
and they actually have certified foresters they contract with, Northwest Forestry. They'll come out, a forester will come out and help do an assessment that's actually science-based, based upon knowledge about fire behavior and stuff like slope and things like that. And then the International Association of Fire Chiefs have got some guidelines, as well as DNRC has some guidelines about building new construction, stuff like that. So it, kind of the Tri-County Fire Safe Working Group will be the contact agency to handle those services for Broadwater County, just as they have in the past. We've never had an agreement with them, a signed agreement, and they've gotten federal funds and stuff. But now with the new Department of Agriculture bill, they have a sub-act within there about a good neighbor policy, trying to give county governments more say on Forest Service boundary lands. And now they're going to give a project, the counties can actually do a project on private property, and extend that so far inside Forest Service boundaries with their permission to do some mitigation projects. Now what we do often is we have a home, and they'll do that mitigation around there, and they're next to Forest Service, and they don't do nothing.
Yeah.
They don't have the funds, it's not in the forest plan, or they don't have time to work on it, they got other priorities. So this is a partnership. We're trying to get the counties to participate more in those type of decisions.
Do you think the Forest Service is willing to participate in these?
I think the Helena National Forest is because of David Nunn. David belongs to the Tri-County Fire Safety, he's been really good working with us. The BBRD, which is part of Jefferson County, the southern end, they have trouble working with the BBRD because they're up at the northern end, they don't live down in Dillon, they're not paying too much attention. I have hope for the Helena Lewis and Clark National Forest. All we can do is see what Congress has gave the Department of Agriculture authority, Forest Service, to work with the neighboring counties. Even more say, the commissioners will have more say, I think, on forest plans and things like that, mitigation projects. That's the goal of the legislation. And it all depends, it'll take years to implement that and actually get out there and see if we actually have any improvement in relationships between local government and Forest Service. I don't know, but I might be retired by then, but they ever have any proof. But anyway, I just want to introduce the idea, get it on the table for discussion, get a draft agreement, of course, run it by the commissioners, and then Corey, get some feedback and kind of see where we're gonna go. We know this is gonna be a several month process. And I just handed that out for you and that kind of, you have any questions on Tri-County Fire Safe? I used to be on the board of directors on that, and Ed does that.
So the grant money's gonna come through the Montana DES, right?
Some money does. It depends where the money comes. If it's FEMA money, it goes through Montana DES. If it's Forest Service money, it goes through the Forest Service directly to Tri-County Fire Safe. DNRC money will be going through probably Tri-County Fire Safe. They have different partners throughout Montana. They're kind of little consortiums in different places. Up in the Flathead, Lincoln, and, Lake County and Flathead have got agreements. And some of them doesn't include the entire county because they just have certain parts of the county involved with their neighboring counties. So anyway, just to kind of like I'm here, pitch it and the program. It's a good program. And take a look at that agreement. You know, it was kind of drafted by Lewis and Clark County legalese.
We had a reception with DNRC and Forest Service was there, as well as local government officials. And it was, a big part of the conversation was around the Good Neighbor Authority. So, yeah, we were lucky to have a good relationship with the Forest Service. And I think this just solidifies that and helps us to build on it. And it benefits all sides. So I would say go forth and conquer, Mike. I think this is a good thing.
I think we have a good, at this time, we have a good supervisor for Helena, Lewis and Clark County. I think we have a good ranger. He's been coming to our LEPC meetings, like that.
Yeah.
And that's good. He's new to the community, it'll take a while. So anyway, that's all I have on this subject. I'd like to appoint, have the commissioners appoint Mike Meyer as a, kind of like a volunteer deputy DES coordinator. Those DES kind of wants us to have some deputies. Some can be volunteers, or they can be other county employees. More the better. I don't see any compensation for Mike, or unless he happens to go to some DES trainings and stuff like that, we can cover his hours through my budget, NUPG budget, just like we do for Nicole Brown. Mike would be good.
I did ask Mike if he was interested, and he said yes. He thought it was a good fit with this being the maintenance supervisor for the county, and also does have experience as a volunteer firefighter.
He has all the ICS training classes and stuff. I think that would be good for us. Now, it's an old civil defense position out of the 50s, and that requires a oath of office, an appointment by the commissioners. It takes the oath of office to defend the Constitution of the United States, state of Montana, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So how many? You do? Yes. And I have to further said, every time we apply for a federal grant, they want to know who the deputies are. They want the oath of office. It's all scanned. We attach it to all of our grant applications. And once you make that a formal appointment, then we'll get Mike over to Ann's office and get him sworn in. Then I'll notify Montana. It's not a big thing. He'll just be helpful. Sometimes we may have a big event. And sometimes when I'm out of town or out of state or something, I'll get one of the deputy DES coordinators to cover for him. Nicole has done that in the past. Any questions?
Well, I would move that we authorize the appointment of Mike Myers as a deputy DES coordinator.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made, second to appoint Mike Myers as the deputy DES coordinator. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Do you have any other DES questions for me?
Thanks for bringing this up.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
We're shifting now into wildland fire season. I know it was nice and cool this morning,
Mhm.
and there've been some fires around the state. They've had some, actually, our forest has had a red flag warning already. 2 weeks ago, we had a red flag warning due to high wind, dry. A lot of fuel out there.
Yeah.
And let's see, I think the permit process is working good. That's online permit process that's managed by Ed. And people that want to burn, you gotta sign up and then activate the permit for that day. And I see a lot of smoke in the valley, and it's good. Burning ditches, irrigators, we want to want.
Do you have a question, Alan?
Oh, yes, pertaining to the Tri-County.
Fire safe? Yes, sir.
Couple of years ago, excuse me, couple of years ago, after the fires down in Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak area,
Yes, sir.
they had some discussion, some seminars, with some of those individuals that came up here pertaining to the urban
Urban
sprawl.
interface, yeah.
That, and I was curious by what you were talking about here as part of what this new decisions, is there any input from that that follows through this?
A little bit. Mostly this deals with fire prevention, fire mitigation, this program. Firefighting is handled through the Rural Fire District and DNRC and then the National Forest in this county. We do have some BLM lands in our county, and those are, fire protection is with the Forest Service through their agreement, their agency agreements. So this organization mainly gets into prevention and burning control. They'll close burning, open burning control. We get some red flag warnings and stuff. We try to coordinate with the forest. We close it countywide as forest as well, rather than somebody on private land burning, but across the fence. Forest Service has no campfires and things like that. Mainly that's just to protect from getting forest fires. Our county resources respond to any fire. Rural Fire Department responds to structure fires as well as rural fires. And if there's any type of wildland fire, Forest Service, our partners, will respond. And then DNRC will respond. Of course, their engines are all stationed out of Helena. What they provide for us right away immediately is helicopter. And they will fly over, once we request it, to the Helena Fire Desk. Helena in their interagency dispatch center out there at the state lands there in North Montana. They'll send a helicopter, and they'll actually talk to our crews that are responding from the engines and stuff, what the fire's doing, if there's any structures. And they'll drop a crew off, and then they'll drop a bucket out, and then they'll go to a water source, start dumping water on that. That's a valuable resource for us. And there's training every year. I have to do training for me to go out on the fire ground. I have to have standards of survival training every year through the forest system. It's about a 7-hour class to refresh the firefighting training that I have had. And all of us have to do that, so that we're safe out there and practice safe. And then you can actually refuse an assignment if you want to, if it's too dangerous or something. Life safety is the number one thing for firefighting crews. Number two is public safety. And sometimes we sacrifice resources to save lives.
Yeah, because I guess the reason why I was asking the question was because, if I remember right, one of the big issues that was down here in Colorado was the subdivisions.
Quite a challenge.
That one of the examples was on your, what do you call it? For your events, it would be on the end gables.
Yes.
That the average, I think it was 1/16 of an inch screen was an average. And that in this one area, most of the houses burnt
Yes.
down from the inside out.
See, this organization are the ones that are trying to educate people on that and try to get people to do that.
That's why I brought up, because part of what you were saying, I remembered
Sure.
something. Well,
You have these copies.
oh,
That's all I have. Any other questions, Mr. Chairman? My time's up.
No, sir.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, Alan. That's my question.
Okay, so move on to 10:30, Nicole Brown, Community Development Director, 380 Views, minor subdivision request for final plat.
Good morning. I'm gonna slide over here so I can pass documents around the table.
essentially. It's not titled 380 Views 1, but we did do a 380 Views 2, so this was the first 380 Views subdivision. They're requesting final plat approval. I believe they have met the conditions of approval. Alright, condition number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply shall be submitted to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality for review and approval. The certificate of approval shall be filed with the final plat.
This was the access, right, to the lots, right?
That is correct.
That's right here.
Number 2, prior to any development and/or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the county weed district for review and approval. So what they have done on this one, the site inspection has not been completed. I had a conversation with Jessica Bushnell, and she spoke with her weed board. We determined this might be the best way to proceed, as opposed to the weed board and the weed coordinator signing off on it. That cover letter states that the property will be re-inspected in the spring. Just so that they're not, there's nothing there.
There's a weather issue, right?
Right, and so that they're not holding up the subdivision, and so they're not just blindly signing off on it. You know, she can go and do an inspection, but
Mhm.
she probably won't find anything at this time.
Yeah.
Big Sky Drive used to be, that's now only an access to lot 5.
That is correct. Yeah, and I have the copy of the deed that the
Quick,
commission
deed.
signed,
That we did, right?
which is not necessarily a condition of approval. It kind of ties into one of these conditions, but
But
I
it
have
just
that
makes
as well.
it more sanitary.
Start number 3 coming around. The applicant will be required to submit the final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County, in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. So this is just a copy of the email. I do have the files on my computer. Number 4, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with the Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPHA, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to an agreement by the time of final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply, as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. So you have a signed and approved plan. The developers are proposing to pay $1,000 at time of lot sale, and that has been accepted by the Broadwater County Rural Fire District Chief. And also in that packet are copies of the lien that would be placed on each lot to ensure that that $1,000 is paid, as well as a lien release. Can I ask, does that work well in your office? Or have you had any bumps on that? Okay. And as you're finishing up with that, Daryl, number 5 is the final plat. The final plat shall be prepared in accordance with applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Plating Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. So it's been signed by the surveyor and the examining land surveyor. Number 6 also has to do with the plat, but I have a smaller version so you can take a look at it. Number 6 states the applicant shall provide a driveway easement from Springville Road to Lot B1 with a turning radius of not less than 45 feet in diameter. So that's that access road, or driveway, I'm sorry. It will be constructed to a road with 380 views too. At this time, it's only a driveway.
What lot number did you just say?
I just read it, and
I think it said B1.
Lot B1. Yes, to Lot B1. That should be the northwesternmost lot there, is that correct? Yeah. So that 60-foot easement there is currently a shared driveway for, I don't know what the one is just south and east of it there.
B2.
Okay, and then there's the driveway that branches off of that accesses, must be 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Down here.
So that's currently a driveway, but it will be constructed to a road standard for 380 views too.
So it's not gonna be a shared driveway?
No.
It's an easement.
It's an easement currently. 7, 8, and 9 are no longer applicable. I left them on this findings of fact report and did a strike through. If you recall, we came back and did an amended preliminarily approved plat, an amended preliminary plat, yes, on this to close off Big Sky Drive so that the developer did not have to construct that, and also so that Spring Street was not constructed. So those are the strike-through conditions, 7, 8, and 9. Dealing with the construction of the roads, which are no longer applicable since we did an amended preliminary. And at the time, just for the public's knowledge and also a refresher for you, myself and this commission decided to leave them as a strike-through on the staff report, the findings of fact and order, so that it would be known for future reference instead of just eliminating them completely. So with that being said, number 10, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenant filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. Sub-item A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations, and then such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, a notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision shall be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, any additional replacement or relocated utility lines shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations, unless otherwise determined by the utility provider. D, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property line. E, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and/or wastewater treatment system improvements and/or maintenance. F, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees, arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and/or maintenance of the following. Sub-item 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and number 2, water availability. G, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. H, notification of the presence of agricultural operations in the vicinity. I, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. J, a waiver of right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. K, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. L, a notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales.
A question, on going back to the fire thing, and I see this a lot, and I guess, do you provide the address markers? for that?
I do at the request of either the owner of the lot or under construction. I do not address lots at this
Right.
time, only when the landowners or contractors come to request them.
Okay, so they gotta request them before they get them.
That's correct.
And I see that being an issue, because these guys go out and respond, multiple mailboxes, they have no idea which one they're going to.
Yes, fortunately, they cannot get a septic permit without an address, and they cannot get power without an address. So,
Here's what I'm talking about is the actual markers, with the green reflective marker.
that's at the time they make their request, they get that.
I have a question on this one, this number, this 6 driveways. Owners of lots B1 and B2 shall be equally responsible for construction and maintenance of the shared driveway. Why do we have a share? I thought we were not having any more shared driveways.
Is that on owner's covenants?
This is on the cover.
That, these conditions were written before we put that in, and we have not amended our regulations. So we really can't disallow shared driveways. I can encourage developers, and I have through pre-application meetings since our discussion, maybe 6 weeks ago, on shared driveways, but it's still allowable per our regulations. So until we amend our regulations, we can't disallow shared driveways.
But we can enforce that on anything from now on because we have had the discussion, right?
I don't know that for certain. I think you would want to get a legal opinion on that.
Okay.
I don't know if it has to be in the regulations or if just the fact that it was discussed at this table, I really don't know the answer to that. But these conditions were written before that conversation. Eleven A, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies. And 11B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record, and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders or claimants of record against the land. This is identifying Jonathan and Mary Heineman as owners. Completes my list of conditions.
During the preliminary plat process, we reviewed the 7 areas of focus that are in MCA and addressed and mitigated all those issues. And then also with the easement issue, where with the quitclaim deed. Well, it wasn't a quitclaim, it was a title, wasn't it?
We
Was
did
it a
do
quitclaim?
this,
Oh, Chris,
Okay.
that-
yeah.
So we addressed that issue with that. So, based on the fact that all the preliminary plat requirements have been addressed and the mitigations are in place, move that we approve final plat of 380 Views minor subdivision as presented.
Is there a second?
Actually, I have a question from Bernadette. Can you come up here and answer a question from the please?
You bet.
So this is, the intent is this access, this is the easement to access all these, is that right?
Yes,
Down through here? Right.
for
For
a
B4
future development.
For
they
B4
said.
or B3,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, for future development.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is this gonna extend all the way down, or
No,
just gonna do the like cul-de-sac type of
Mhm.
thing there, and then they'll access off the corner points?
correct,
Is that kind of the idea?
yes,
And same for these lots as well?
correct. Well, and yeah, they have, yeah, right off of here
Right,
or
right.
here
Or
is their legal.
Okay, so the legal is actually
Mhm.
off from here.
Yep,
So this is just gonna basically be these folks down here that,
correct.
okay. Okay.
Did you second that? Okay.
I'll second the motion to approve Creed minor subdivision. plat.
Motion been made, second to approve the minor subdivision plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
I have a special pen here, if you would sign, there should be 3 copies there. Please. Maybe there's 4. Thank you.
And then you'll let us know, Nicole, we posted it out there to do the inspection.
If you would like me to?
Yeah, I'd like to know that it's been completed.
Absolutely. We'll email Jessica,
Yep.
because I don't know for certain that she would let me know.
Yep.
Let her know to contact you.
Just two Mylars in there, right?
Yes.
Okay. There you go.
Take care of it tomorrow.
So when are they planning to get going?
Pardon?
When are they planning to get going?
Oh, I'm sure as soon as possible.
All right.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, and congratulations, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll go on to our 10:45 airport courtesy car loan.
All right, I invited Mike Ferguson, who's the chairman of the airport board, to give us a little rundown on what that's about, please.
I got a hold of Wade Aeronautics, and we were approved for not a new, but a courtesy car, and but the amount is up to $2,000. And we have to get the car and have proof that we got it, and we send them whatever that needs to be, that they would accept anything. You wouldn't have to have a title or anything, but then they'll issue a check up to $2,000. And about the soonest that we could get reimbursed would be around mid-July. So there's no rush. I guess there would be, like I mentioned, if we found a vehicle that was suitable, I don't think we need another van. Certainly don't. Although that one has served us, that old one has served us pretty well, in spite of being stolen twice. But so I guess what we could do, if we could find one between now and then. I had a suggestion from Wade, maybe the Toyota place, what's the guy's name? You see him on TV every night? Yeah, if you don't buy there, you likely you paid too much. Well, he just recently bought an airplane. I didn't know that he was a pilot or anything, but he's an aircraft owner. And maybe it would be good to go in there and see him and see what, maybe he would give us a good deal on a used car.
Robert Allen.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
just came to.
yeah,
Okay. Sure. Okay.
but so I guess there's no rush.
Yeah. So is the question, Mike, that, do you have the money in your budget to do something like that, or do we need to loan
Well,
you the money ahead
the only
of time?
thing I could do maybe is something like, remember when the van, Laura, when we had to get it out of Hawk down there, Three Forks? Well, I paid to get it out, because we couldn't get a check that soon from the county. And then the county reimbursed me later. And we could do the same thing with the car too. If we found a car before that time, possibly, you know, I would think about buying it and then getting reimbursed when we got the money from aeronautics. But that money would come to you, to the county, yeah.
And you have $11,000 in your CIP?
Pardon?
So you have $11,000 right now in your CIP.
Yeah,
So you have some wiggle room. You could actually just go through your budget if you didn't want to.
could we use
Absolutely.
money out of that CIP?
Yes.
We damn well want to get that back in there.
But
But
yeah,
we could
would
do that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
and then
we
reimburse that.
from the state, then we
Yeah.
can put that money back.
So what I'd make the suggestion is that, in as much as we got plenty of time, and the old one is still plugging away, and, maybe go in and see that guy at Toyota and, or is it Nissan? Is that the name?
Nissan, Robert Allen Nissan.
Yeah, that's it, Robert Allen, yeah. And see him, and there is another fellow, he's out in California right now, but he has a home up Deep Creek. And he has I don't know what it is, I think it's a Honda, a little Honda. And he had mentioned once that he was gonna sell it. It had been his daughter's. And I can't think of his, Joe something. But I'll check that too, and then I'll be in touch. I can get a hold of. Otherwise, if we could get that money, then that'd be good. Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
that's about it, I guess.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Alan.
May I ask,
Thanks.
what do you use the car for? I don't know too much about our airport.
It's a pilot courtesy car, so a lot of times people will fly in, but they don't have any transportation. to get downtown, to get lunch or whatever it is. And so that car is always parked at the airport, and they have the ability to drive into town.
Okay.
And the state has a courtesy car program for that. And priority, we meet the qualifications. You can't have a taxi service available. We don't have a taxi in Townsend. So they provide up to $2,000 grant to small airports around the state. A lot of, it's real common to have courtesy cars at airports.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I guess I never gave it any thought.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, let's see, 11 o'clock. Corey Swanson's out on a trial all week. Do we want to discuss the Longmore Drive issue? I know there's been discussions between, has Mary talked to the individual? Or just Corey has talked to him?
Well, Dana talked to him years ago, 3 years ago,
Okay.
in March, actually. And then Nicole sent an email that she had reached out a number of times. And then Corey met with him also. And so what I think we need, Nicole isn't here right now, but perhaps next week, if we just leave it on there till it's taken care of, next week we could get an update. She did send another certified letter. But that's then the thing is, there's been no response to, there's been chatting, but no response to the issue. And so, I'm not sure how we move on. Maybe he'll respond this time to the certified letter, I hope so. But that was just sent out on Thursday, I believe.
Okay, so we'll go to our 11:15 Opportunity Bank building purchase for ambulance storage meeting and office space and Board of Investments loan.
So this is just ongoing. I thought we'd also leave this on the agenda, if that's good with you guys. I don't think we voted last week to go with the vote or the contract with them. I would like to get the phase one added to page 2 and incorporate some of the other requests that we have.
Right.
So before moving forward, of course, we need a vote.
We have two different finance options available, right? One is this,
Mhm.
and then the other will be Opportunity Bank.
Right,
This is one
Yeah.
that help finance it, so. Okay.
yeah.
And it was the DE, who's supposed to do the inspection for the phase one?
DEQ, well, they have contractors, so I believe it'll be Earl Griffith, and he has done most of the good work that's been done on it in the community has been done by Earl, and so he's the best one probably, and that's, they would pay for it. Well, we would pay for a part of it, they would supervise and we'd use their contract, it was Earl.
Tyler knows that that's what we're waiting on.
Yeah, and he's
Okay.
supportive of that in his
It's all right,
email.
he's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it's good with you guys, I'll move that we respond to Opportunity Bank to go with their loan
Mhm.
package for the purchase of the building.
I'm good with
Okay, and with the inclusion of the phase one in the contract.
Sure.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
that. Then we can move on, yes. Al?
So what was the purchasing price